All right, Siobhan. So we got some news, man. The trade deadline has been crazy. And obviously, the biggest story has been Kyrie Irving and everything going on with him, Brooklyn, and all that stuff. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be some even more trades that come along, especially as we get closer and closer to the deadline. But let's talk about this Kyrie Irving trade, man. All right. So for those that don't know, Kyrie Irving has been traded from Brooklyn to the Dallas Mavericks for uh, Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, a first-round pick, and two second-round picks. And along with Kyrie, Markieff Morris is going to the Dallas Mavericks as well. And I just want to break this down, Trevon, get your opinion on, where you think the this puts the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference, and what do you think their ceiling is? And also, I would like to also get your thoughts on Kyrie Irving and how everything went on in Brooklyn and how it has finally ended. But first, where do you see the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference now that they have Kyrie Irving alongside with Luka Doncic?
Yeah, so like the way I would really break it down is it's kind of like three sides to it. It's a Kyrie Irving side. You have to look at it from a Dallas Mavericks perspective, obviously. Brooklyn Nets being the third. First, looking at the Dallas Mavericks, I feel like this was a good move. Me personally, I feel like they could have waited a little bit longer, maybe somewhere down the line in the future. Simply because with Luka, it is urgent to try and get a star beside him, especially since they just made the conference finals run last year. But with his young age and him still, becoming into his prime, they could have waited a little while longer. But I do understand, their urgency to go ahead because you kind of want to convince Luka early that Dallas is the place for him. You don't really want him to get a wandering eye thinking about going other places. So I feel like short term, this was a good deal, simply because the West is kind of we really don't know who's the top dog in the West right now, especially with the Golden State Warriors like kind of bad first half to the season, and obviously Steph's injury. So I feel like this was a good go now move. Down the road, then that's where you really have to considering all the things that come with Kyrie because we know what he can do on the court, but we also know what he can do off the court in a bad way. He can be a distraction. He can just up and want to leave is any moment that he wants to. And what does that mean for, a guy like Luka? But in the same sense, it could also be a kind of good thing because they did get off of a Spencer Dinwiddie contract. You did lose an important role player in Dorian Finney-Smith. But let's say short term, it doesn't work out and Kyrie walks in the free agency. That may not be the worst thing for Dallas simply because they'll have a lot of cap space. And then next offseason, you can kind of treat that as, something, an opportunity to really find that star that you want to see paired with Luka long term. So short term, I feel like it's kind of a win-win for Dallas. It can work short term, but if it doesn't work out, now you got all the cap space in the world to try and go get you that star that you really want to like have beside Luka long term.
Yeah, I think, and this is how I see it in terms of Dallas, and looking from their perspective and where they fit now in the Western Conference, with all the teams over there. So I think that this helps them in terms of getting good seeding for the playoffs. I think in the regular season, of course they're gonna. I think it's gonna take some getting used to. Uh, I'm not as worried about like them having the ball as much as they do. A lot of people say they don't think it can work because both of them need the ball and all that stuff. But I think Kyrie, especially Kyrie, he has shown that he can play off the ball. He can play with other superstars and still get his shots and still be effective scoring the basketball. And also he can still play make as well. So I'm not too worried about that. Now, moving Luca off the ball, Luca has not been great off the ball in a lot of spots. He, not as much movement without the basketball and stuff like that. Usually, he's the one that has the ball pretty much every time you watch a game or every time, throughout the game, he has the ball in his hands. So in spots like that, I think that might be the adjustment. What happens when Kyrie has the ball? What is Luka going to be doing? But I think that with Kyrie already has played with a player like LeBron who has some similarities to Luka. They can figure it out that way. Um, Now the only difference is LeBron gets the ball up a lot faster early in the shot clock sometimes. So, he's not always holding it like Luka does. Luka tends to hold the ball late into shot clocks, but I think that they can figure something out there where Kyrie is, being efficient and getting shots where he needs to get them. So the only thing I think is defense. Defense is going to uh, be a big part of what they do if they want to make it far in the playoffs, especially as, you know, uh, basketball moves into the half court versus just full court. So they're going to have to figure some things out there because Luka and Kyrie aren't known for their defense. They can play good defense in spots, but you got to figure that out there. But overall, I think it's going to move them up, especially during the regular season. The only thing is playoffs, how far can they get? And it's going to take some time, I think, but from Dallas's point of view, I think it's a good kind of rental to say, just to see how well Luka is going to play with other superstars.
Yeah, I agree with you there as far as the fit between them. I know a lot of people have questioned, they bring up the usage rate, especially for Luca. Like you said, we've seen Kyrie do it with a guy like LeBron and other superstars, quite frankly, even James Harden to a degree. It actually got off to a pretty good start when they were actually able to play together. Kevin Durant was pretty much the ideal fit you could see with a guy like Kyrie. But I feel like people are a little too quick to judge Luca. Um, Simply because he hasn't had that true guy to really even like for us to even like evaluate him with. Yes, he had Kristaps Porzingis, but Porzingis was a big man. And simply the way that he played, or you could argue the way that he was put into a scheme due to coaching, it just didn't work out. But we haven't really had the opportunity to see Kyrie with another perimeter star, like a true perimeter star, the way Kyrie um can play. And to even take it another step further, you could honestly say him with Jalen Brunson could be a pretty good preview of what it might be with like a Kyrie, because Jalen Brunson was that other creator that they had. Um, Obviously, he's not the same skill set individually as a guy like Kyrie, but we've seen Luca, have another guy in the backcourt with him to handle the creation. Spencer Dinwiddie is another guy. And I feel like they can figure it out. Kyrie's pretty much played like a two guard ever since LeBron, honestly. And I feel like he'll pretty much do the same role. And when Luca does what he does, it's not like it's a bad thing. I mean, Luca is going to be productive. And then when he needs a break, you can have Kyrie. But I feel like people are pretty quick to judge Luca, without even getting a chance to really see how it goes. So I'm not exactly sure how many games we have before the All-Star break, but I believe Kyrie is set to play on Wednesday against the Clippers. So we'll get our
Yeah.
first chance to see him play. So hopefully they can get a rhythm and a chemistry, going into the All-Star break.
Yeah, and I think you made a good point there. It's we've seen Luca with another ball handler per se, uh, and Jalen Brunson, who has had a great season this so far this season with the New York Knicks, and has an All-Star level seasons so far. He didn't make the All-Star, but you know, he's playing at that level. So playing with Luca, I think a lot of people, like you said, they do kind of give him an unfair judgment, or they're a little unfair to him because honestly, when you look at those teams, if the ball isn't in Luca's hands, there was a significant drop off, especially when he would go to the bench and things like that. So when you look at them play the past few years with Luca being the premier guy in their offense, he has actually uh, done very well and has been somewhat, efficient, especially to the degree where he is literally the engine and the person that is pushing them forward as they go through, a full season and into the playoffs. And you have to look at that too. So, and that doesn't mean that it works all the time. That doesn't mean that it's sustainable. That doesn't mean that they didn't push it more than they probably should have. But it did work. It does get them to a certain point, and I think that, and not to downgrade anybody that played on those teams, but if the ball wasn't in Luca's hands, it was a drop off. So
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
you kind of had to have the ball in his hands. You would have liked to see, more ball movement, more man movement, more player movement without the ball, stuff like that. But it just didn't really work with
Yeah.
the roster they had.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a give and take. It's kind of a balance there. You got to look at it from all points of view. But I think this does help with that, though. You can have somebody that can you can give the ball to other than Luca and stuff like that. And it's going to take some time. I mean, it takes some time to build chemistry, and we'll just have to wait and see how well they do that before the playoffs.
Depending on how the rest of the West shapes up, I can honestly see the Mavericks possibly making it back to that conference finals round because, due to the Warriors, anything can happen. Like I said, short term, I believe this could be a really good move. The question for me is long term, but for right now, I believe it'll work.